On today's show, the Washington Wizards lost once again. They secured a bottom 5 record, but there's one play from Will Riley that tells me he's the biggest breakout candidate for this team next season. This is Locked On Wizards.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
DC family, you're locked on to the Washington Wizards, where you're part of our family. My name is Ben Strober. I'm a credentialed media member covering the Washington Wizards alongside the DC sports content creating savant Abdullah Ayyubi. And on today's show, we talk about Tristan Vukcevic a little bit, his offensive talent on full display, but we saw some of the glaring issues defensively and a big performance from him. But Will Riley in this game had a big-time play that shows me that he is the breakout candidate for this team next season. AB, what's going on?
153 points given up, Ben. It's just game by game. We're almost there, boys.
Yeah, it feels a little bit ominous just even bringing up the final score of this game. But yes, 153 to 131. The Philadelphia 76ers won it despite the Wizards actually being within one at halftime of this game. They were leading toward the end of the first half, and then they get trounced in the third quarter, 47-32. Paul George, can you believe it, had 39 points in this game. He turned back the clock 10 years, and I guess that's kind of just what happens to this Wizards defense at this point. But let's start with Will Riley. His first poster dunk I think we've seen from him in his career was tonight. And it shows me that he is the breakout candidate to watch for this team next year because he's adding new things to his repertoire every single game. Will Riley tonight, 18 points on 8 of 12 from the field, 2 of 6 from downtown, just 2 turnovers for Riley, 3 assists. More opportunities with the ball in his hands. He's getting stronger. He's getting more aggressive, and I love to see it from Riley. To see him rise up and go up for the big-time poster slam was something that shows me, I'm like, this guy's starting to learn what it's all about. At this level. At the NBA level, you got to be physical, you got to be aggressive, and you got to be able to make big-time plays like that. And that was the first time Riley this year, outside of like some really crafty plays, has made me kind of jump out of my seat in a way, go, whoa. Like, I didn't know Riley had that one in him, but with his size and his athleticism, it makes a lot of sense that we finally got to see one of these type of plays from Riley, AB.
I'm just so excited to see how Will Riley is finally getting his flowers from all over NBA media, and that poster, again, it's just first of many. I posted it on Twitter, Will Riley with no regard for the city of brotherly love, and that's what I'm talking about. And I understand that it's a losing effort. You're not going to win this game, but the fact that you have a young guy out there who, I think, Ben, the narrative of him potentially starting next year, there is a big possibility. And as much as I love Bilal and what he offers you defensively and how he's looked offensively post All-Star break, Will Riley, the length that he offers, and he's only going to get stronger and taller and fill out his frame, there's a real possibility he might start next season, and it might push one of their young guys or even 2 guys out of this crowded wing group. And 18 points, it just seems like Will Riley is a certified bucket, and he's getting better. And I just love that he's doing this in games where you clearly don't have Alex R out there, no Keyshawn George. Who's going to step up? Who's going to take advantage of the minutes given to them? And clearly Will Riley did that tonight. And it's just amazing how night and day it looks, Ben, of his game on this Wizard squad right now, pre-All-Star break and post-All-Star break. I generally wonder how his statistics, if you lined it up with the other rookies, because I know Con Knepp will win Rookie of the Year, but how will his numbers line up against these other guys for Rookie of the Year post-All-Star break? I definitely got to check it out.
Well, at one point, I think a couple of weeks ago, he was second in points scored amongst rookie players since the All-Star break. And even just in some of the lists that we've seen, like the new rookie ladder came out today, and I don't understand the rookie ladder at this point because Trey Johnson was nowhere to be found on it the entirety of the season, and he's arguably played some of his worst basketball over the last month or so of the whole year, and somehow now he's 10th on the ladder, and Will Riley is nowhere to be found at this point. It doesn't make any sense to me that they configure the ladder to be that way, but Riley, now that he's had the opportunities to do like a pretty good amount of the work with the basketball in his hands over the last month or so, has given him a real chance to actually shine. And if you want to look toward anything in terms of development of what's happened, like it's hard to find things on a lot of these nights, right? Like you just gave up 151 points in a game to a Philadelphia team that like has some stud players in Tyrese Maxey, but Paul George scoring 39. I don't even remember how old he is right now. It's a little bit absurd. Maxey had 28 in this game. Edgecombe had 23. He's one of the better rookies, obviously, from this last class. Riley has been the lone thing, I think, that's kept a lot of Wizards fans going right now, is seeing what this kid can do every single night, because that's what it's all about at this point of the season, is seeing what you have in your young players. Riley has risen to the occasion. Johnson has fallen off a little bit. I talked about it yesterday, how the injury, I think, has been a big reason why. And tonight they've been giving him more and more opportunities. I'm talking about Johnson here, to have the basketball in his hands, to flourish a little bit, see if he can get a little bit better on the ball. But it's just not really working out for him from that realm right now. But these are the opportunities where you want to see him struggle. You want to see them struggle now so they can prosper later. And Riley has used these recent opportunities to get more minutes to actually shine and show, hey, like, I deserve a spot in this rotation next year. You can't forget about me. You guys took me in the first round, and Riley has been exceptional as of late.
Yeah, it's amazing because going into the season, I was more focused on, at least in Trey Johnson, man. At least from my end, didn't think I would see much of Will Riley, but from the get go he was dominating anytime he was assigned to the Capital City Go-Go, and like you mentioned, and Ben always talks about him being that breakout candidate for year two. I think it's a real possibility, and I know it's early, Ben, but the idea of him being the best rookie or the best draft pick out of the three of Watkins, Johnson, Riley, as of right now, I don't think it's too crazy. Now, down the line, I think Trey Johnson's still going to be a really good NBA player, but what will Riley offers you at his size, it is very unique. He's somewhat of a unicorn. He could potentially get to 6'11", 6'10". He's a young guy. He's still growing, and I'm excited for his future here. It's amazing that Will Dawkins and the doubters that he has, they still doubt this man's draft selections when he went 3 for 3 in a considered weak draft class in 2024. And in 2025, you took Trey Johnson. He fell in his lap. Still think that's going to be a really good pick. But on top of that, you trade back. A lot of people are upset they gave up Walter Clayton. You get a guy in Will Riley, finding gems like that. And then I also, just to add something on to that, you have 2 second-rounders that got second contracts. It just hasn't been the case here for so long. And I understand that this team lost. They're losing, but we're saying all of this just for preparation for next season, because when everything is, when the execution's done, when the team is winning, we're going to look back and see this was the blueprint.
And I think the one thing that really sticks out to me about these late round gems that they've been able to find in Riley and then Keyshawn George as well, and then, man, like, watching this game, it just makes me realize how much we've missed these Keyshawn George hoops over the last month or so, because it's been a minute since we've got to see George play, and we might not even see him the remainder of the season. We haven't got an update on him in actually quite some time, but the last update we had a couple weeks ago was that he'd be reevaluated again in 3 weeks, but it kind of seems like a soft shutdown that we saw with Bilal the first 2 years of his career. But when you have the ability to draft pretty well late in the first round, that could be a real positive thing, especially if this Wizards team takes a significant leap next year and then years to come after that, because it's not going to be about picking at the top of the draft anymore, where the choices are a lot more obvious. Riley was a guy that I didn't even have really on my radar as a late first-round pick last year. Not to say I didn't think he'd be a late first-round pick, but I think at 18 at the time, before the Wizards traded back, we had explored a lot of different other options, including some big men, a couple of other guard options that we looked at last year. Riley was a guy that I didn't even really scout too hard, but it turns out this guy might have been one of the better players from this entire draft class in terms of guys later in that first round. And I think if he would have stayed an extra year at college, he probably would have ended up being a lottery pick this year. He would have only got better playing another year of college basketball. I can tell you that right now. He would have been a year older, but he'd still be pretty young, relatively speaking, compared to some of these other guys. But man, this is such a stacked class upcoming. If you're a team that's a playoff team year in, year out, like OKC is now, you have to be able to find more talent to supplement your roster later on in the first round. And so far, Will Dawkins has done a really nice job of finding talent later in these drafts to add to the roster. And it turns out that Riley and George could be like the pivotal key pieces for this team going forward. And these are guys that you took later in the first round.
Do you think, Ben, and again, I'm just creating or trying to promote a question out there, the emergence of Will Riley, I understand in the draft it's best player available, but does Will Dawkins ever think about the fact that we have a lot of good wings, potential good wings? Could that sway him into potentially putting a guard priority position over a wing position, or it's just a BPA?
I think absolutely not. I think any GM that has made mistakes in the past will admit that one of the biggest mistakes they've made, and I've heard football GMs say the same thing, the biggest mistake you can possibly make is drafting for need, because if you miss when you draft for need, then you set yourself up to be in trouble, because then all of a sudden you don't have the position of need right now. And arguably you could say the Wizards' big position of need is like another guy to have as a formidable big to have alongside Sarr for the future. Okay, maybe you end up getting that in this draft in Cam Boozer. Maybe you get somebody else. Maybe you sign someone in free agency, because AD probably doesn't seem like a long-term thing here in DC. But, in the NBA especially, where one player is on the floor can change that much. 5 players on the floor, one of them being a superstar, can change everything for your team. It just wouldn't make sense, I think, from any realm to draft for need. And especially in a draft class like this, the Wizards, wherever they're picking, I'm sure will take whoever's the best player available on their board. That just seems like it makes the most sense, and I think that's how it honestly should always be. I don't think any team should ever draft for need. I don't agree with that philosophy.
Best player available. It's the way to go. And I just bring that up because I just know people are gonna. I know Wizards fans at least are gonna say, "Hey, we don't need a wing. We need that big, or we need that lead guard." So we'll just have to see best player available May 10th, man.
That is exactly right. All right, Tristan Vukcevic, another pretty good offensive game for him. Some defensive issues as well. I want to talk about what his future looks like here in DC when we come back. Spring is a natural reset point. If there's one thing that can quietly cost businesses money, it's messy communication, missed calls, scattered texts, no clear thread of who said what. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo. Spelled Quo, the smarter way to run your business communications. Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2, with over 3,000 reviews trusted by more than 90,000 businesses. It lets your entire team share one business number so you never miss a call, text, or opportunity. The part I love, everything lives in one clean thread. Calls, text, voicemails. The whole team sees the conversation, so nothing falls through the cracks. And the AI summaries save serious time by logging calls and highlighting the next steps automatically. It just makes your business feel more organized and responsive. Make this the season that no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedNBA. That's quo.com/lockedNBA. Quo. No missed calls, no missed customers. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood Prediction Markets changes the game. It's people moving the action, so when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now, I can actually take part live in a market powered by the people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, a registered future commissions merchant and swap firm. Locked On Wizards, we thank you for tuning in with us, of course, here post-game following the Washington Wizards 153-131 loss. I wanted to get to Tristan Vukcevic. By the way, I want to thank everyone for dealing with the audio stuff today. I'm using my computer microphone because my headphones wanted to stop working right before we did the podcast, so I couldn't use my main microphone today. So hopefully it sounds okay on everyone's end. Tristan Vukcevic, 17 points tonight. I think he had 15 of those in the first half, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, that's exactly right. He did not play after the third quarter of this game. He's such an interesting case to me because when I watch him, I go, we can't ignore what this guy can do offensively because he's one of the more skilled big players we've seen in a Wizards uniform in quite some time. And I'm just talking about offensive versatility, the ability to stretch the floor, the ability to make that little post hook shot, use some of his post moves. He's kind of the technician down there when it comes to actually finding a little bit of space, a little bit of separation to get off some of these tough shots that he has knocked down. But also, it's tough to ignore some of the defensive issues he has right now. He doesn't move his body particularly well. I don't think he does a great job of staying in front of him with his man, and he's not very capable at this point as a rebounder. Now, this is a guy that's a former second-round pick. He's a guy that got a new 3-year contract with this organization. So you'd imagine he's in their plans in some realm. I just wonder what that role looks like. And as it stands right now, I'm comfortable with him being one of the backup bigs for this team next year. But I don't think he should be the only backup big. I think they're going to have to explore free agency or potentially whatever they do in the draft next year as well is something that I'm going to be looking at. Because Vukcevic, I love what he provides offensively. I'm just not sure unless we see significant improvement from him defensively that he's going to be on the floor a ton next year.
First half, Vukcevic, Ben, that's a different beast. The guy goes out there and just scores 10 points in like 10 minutes. And Yeah, I've been a big fan of him because I think the offensive game was always going to be there, but defensively, it just seems like he's been getting bullied all season, and it's tough because maybe he just can't keep up with the guys that he's guarding. As a backup, I agree that's his role here. And if there are games where Alex Sarr or next season if Anthony Davis is playing, they can't go, then maybe you slide in TV in the lineup. Going into this season, I thought maybe the duo of Tristan Vukcevic and Alex Sarr would be fun to watch, considering that we weren't going to try to win too many games. But the idea of Juju Reese next season, and maybe he's the backup guy here as well. I think you maybe need to go out in free agency and grab someone. We always talk about that bruiser big man that can be a mentor for Sar, but can also take pressure off the young guys and going out there and trying to get a lot of rebounds. We need to be able to rebound the ball. And Tristan just right now isn't one of the best rebounders in the league. Maybe he could get to an average rebounder or an average defender at some point, but right now this isn't the case. And he's still a young guy. He still has a long way to go. He can learn. But honestly, from what I've seen offensively and the flashes that he's given Ben, he definitely deserves to be that backup big man here. And maybe in this offseason he can get taller, stronger. You just got to figure out a way to implement him into this team because next season I think he can play meaningful minutes when they're playing competitive basketball.
His defense is such a curious case to me because he's pretty active with his hands, and he actually deflects a lot of passes. And like if you look in the stock department, it's not something he necessarily struggles with. He's no stranger to stealing the basketball, tipping away a couple passes, or even swatting some. But it's just his ability to play defense with his feet, I think, is something that is lacked with him right now. And he's not like overly strong. At his size, I think there's room for him to get stronger so he can physically match up with some of these guys down low. Like, he's got a little more meat on his bones, obviously, than Sarr does at this point. But, it's pretty obvious that Washington has an issue when it comes to physicality in the low post. But with Vucevic, I just don't think he's been able to move his feet and his body particularly well on the defensive end, which is interesting because for a guy that has decent hands like him, you'd expect him to actually be pretty impactful on that end. So maybe if it's something with his training, like maybe they want him to get to a certain weight in terms of like putting on muscle mass, or they want him to drop weight so he moves a little bit quicker on his feet. I'm not sure what it would be in terms of that for Tristan Vukcevic, but like the offensive game is obviously the defensive game needs a lot of work, which what makes like this kind of guy super polarizing in terms of how many minutes you can get from him. I think obviously in a situation where Anthony Davis probably misses plenty of games next year, if we're being honest, like maybe if you're lucky for the Wizards, he's playing 55 to 60 games, but I'll go in like worst case scenario. Let's say AD only plays in like 40 or like under half the games essentially. In that situation, you're going to have to rely on some of your depth off the bench because Sarr's a guy, I'm not even sure like how his body will withhold like playing in an 82-game season because he's had some of his own issues with injury this year. So they might have to rely on Vucevic at some point in the season when they are trying to be competitive. So you're going to have to find a way for him to be serviceable on the floor at the same time defensively. The offensive game is there. Everybody knows that. They just got to find a way to have him be a little bit more impactful on the defensive end.
If you add Ben a Caleb Wilson or Cameron Boozer alongside Anthony Davis and Alex Sarr, how do you think Tristan Vukcevic would carve out a role here? I know it's a tough question, but I just want to get your input on it.
I just think he'd be like the fourth big pretty much at that point. So like he'd see time on the floor because I think we're going to see the Wizards play double big more than they ever have really at this point, or at least in the last 5 or 6 years or whatever. There's a reason this team has never deployed the lineup of having multiple bigs out there, because I think if you had Sarr and Bagley out on the floor at the same time earlier in the season, that probably would have been a pretty good combination. I know those are two players that are, similar from the sense where they both would be playing down low, trying to be physical and get their buckets at the rim, but Sarr's obviously a guy that can stretch the floor a little bit. Bagley, more of a guy that plays on the inside, gives you the activity on the offensive glass. I think they were worried that they would be too good in a lot of situations where you have multiple bigs out there, because like that's the biggest issue the Wizards have had all year is like they haven't had a ton of formidable options to play at big at all times. And if a team has multiple bigs out there at once, kind of like the Cavaliers do, Mobley and Jared Allen, like they really struggle against a team like that because they just can't match up. You only have one guy out there that can really do it, so you end up having somebody a lot smaller playing and guarding a guy that's almost 7 feet tall sometimes. So I think that's been intentional, and I think next year obviously you're anticipating having a starting lineup with Alex Sarr and Anthony Davis, at least as it stands right now. So if that's going to be your lineup, like clearly the Wizards are interested in doing double big because they feel like they're going to have the talent necessary to go out there and compete and have those two on the floor together at the same time. So maybe you see some more double big, but Vooch will get some of the run with that next year maybe.
I know this is out of the blue, but do you think we see AD at all with these last couple of games left or no?
I feel like no. I'm going to lean that way, but they haven't definitively ruled him out, so I'm not going to go in here and say he's definitely not playing. But, yeah, we got the update that he got cleared for light contact. There's 6 games left, AB. Like, is it worth it to see him for a game or two? They might lock up this bottom 4 record pretty soon. I think the tragic number is 4 or 3 right now. Do the Jazz play tonight? They are, and they're losing. Shocker. But the Pacers are up 117-92 at the end of the third quarter. So if that result holds, the Wizards will have the worst record in the league.
Let's go.
Hopefully by the time a lot of you are listening or watching this, the Pacers hopefully will have won this game. I would not put it past them to blow this game in the fourth quarter. What is this lead right now that they have? 92, 117. They're up by 25 points right now entering the fourth quarter. I would not be shocked if they somehow found a way to lose this game. They are very good at doing that.
Let's just get rid of this season. Let's move on. I'm ready for next season, Ben, and I'm as excited for winning basketball.
We all are. All right, when we come back, it's your time to shine, your time to take over the show. Let it all out. Coming up next. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena, the crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so simple. That's why Gametime has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs, with the fans. If you pull up the Gametime app, pick an upcoming NBA game, you can have tickets locked and loaded within minutes. Love seeing all the prices up front, no surprise fees at checkout. Being able to see the view from the seat before buying makes the decision so much easier. Zone deals stand out as well. You choose the section, and Gametime picks the seats, and you save. Great last-minute options available as well with NBA tickets showing up at solid prices. Everything feels quick, intuitive, and stress-free from start to finish. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today, and remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. The tournament is here, one of the best times of the year. Brackets, buzzer beaters, upset. It's nonstop action from final tip to cut down. I want to know who you guys got in the Final Four. Let me know in the comments down below. I think I got the Michigan Wolverines finally getting the Big Ten over the hump. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a way to stay in the action all tournament long. Here's the best part. You get up to $300 back in bonus bets every day for 10 days. That means 10 chances to stay involved throughout the entire tournament. You can mix it up however you want with game picks, futures, or even same-game parlays for bigger potential payouts. It's perfect for the tournament because every day there's something new, different matchups, new storylines, and more ways to get involved as the bracket unfolds. So visit FanDuel.com to sign up today. That's FanDuel.com to get in on the action. 6 more games of whatever this type of basketball is at this point, AB. It's getting hard to watch. We all know it, but hopefully we continue to see some good games here from Will Riley going forward. But what is everybody else at this point saying about this Washington Wizards season? Tell me.
I just want to say Paul George dropping 39 on us in the great 2026. I mean,
yeah, it's low-key crazy.
First of all, before I get into this, before we let it all out, I ran into a Locked On Wizards avid listener, Steve, at Shake Shack, and we had an hour-long conversation, and he told me he loves Bilal. His number one guy is Caleb Wilson. He loves Kingston Fleming. He seemed pretty old school when it comes to his mentality on basketball, and he loves defense, and he was telling me we need desperately to play defense here in order for us to win. So shout out to you, Steve. Uptown Dre, what's going on, man? He says, yo, my brethren, with the muscle emoji, of course. We score 131 and still get smashed by 22. Let's hope by night's end some great info occurs. Yeah, it's tough for Ben and I after a game like that when you give up 153. Obviously, we're going to say the same thing over and over again. We regurgitate the fact that this team isn't trying to win too many games, and you're going out there trying to see meaningful development. And thank God that Will Riley at least had a poster we could talk about something, and you see his jump in year one. But it gets tiring, and you get exhausted. Especially, I can't imagine as a fan watching from tip-off to the end of the game, giving up 153. And At the NBA and today's NBA, even giving up 153 is still a lot. I guess 120, 130 is average on what you give up, but 153 is a lot. But again, when Anthony Gill has a career high in 21 points, which I don't know if we mentioned, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, there's a reason why he's 35 minutes, man.
Was that really his career high?
I mean, I think so.
See, I didn't check. If that is his career high, congrats to him. But yeah, the games are getting really, really weird at this point. And Anthony Gill is not like some kind of terrible, terrible player. Like I think a lot of Wizards fans would assume he is. Like there are some things he can do on a basketball floor that make sense. Like I promise he's not just there for no reason. Like he is an NBA player at the end of the day. I'm not sure if they're going to be in the Anthony Gill business next year or what's going to be next for him because he's on the vet minimum right now. But it is kind of interesting finally seeing him get a real opportunity to try and score and play significant minutes. So if you're into that kind of stuff, then cool. I guess this is your Super Bowl. You get to see Anthony Gill score over 20 points in a game.
Yeah. Shout out AG. Guru20282 says, Willie J. Ball. Will Riley's starting to get love from Wizards fans, and you love to see it. Firefox, final stretch, y'all. 6 games. Let's keep it rolling. Guru says the problem will be if he can get shots next year. Yeah, I do wonder, Ben, when it comes to shot selection, how many shots do you see Will Riley getting, considering the fact that he'll probably be if he starts, third, fourth, fifth option? It's going to be tough because you have Trae Young. You're going to have that hopefully top 5 pick, a healthy Alex Sard, Keyshawn George. Where do you see himself? I know it's early, but making his mark offensively at least.
I feel like it's going to be a by committee effort when it comes to the offensive production next year, except for maybe the nights where Anthony Davis is out there. I think you'd look to him to be your number one scoring option at that point, alongside Trae Young as well. But when it comes down to it, who else you have on this team on any given night? Like I feel like you'd like to be pretty balanced, if not because for the Wizards to take the next step, like AD and Trae are going to be part of that equation, helping them be more competitive, play in some tighter basketball games. Those guys could be your star players for next season, but you don't want them to be the superstars long term because you want one of your superstar players to be a guy you think that's going to be here for the long run, that's a little bit younger, somebody you think has a pretty significant runway for how they can take off. So I hope it becomes like a by committee effort where maybe some nights you see Riley go for 20 plus, other nights you'd see a guy like Bilal or Keyshawn drop 20 plus in the effort. Like I just hope it's a little bit more balanced than just like the Trae and AD show.
Yeah, and I'll say one thing: if someone goes down in the wing group, God forbid, you have Will Riley there to step up. You have Justin Champagne. You hopefully will have a healthy Ken Whitmore. Guru also says starting 5 next season: Young, Riley, George, Sarr, and Davis. That sounds good. And he also says we have enough wings to trade for a guard if need be. Jay, what's going on, buddy? He says, I hope we get Caleb Wilson. Street clothes AD is a real thing. We have to prepare for that. Ben, if you're ever bored, just watch Caleb Wilson highlights. I swear this dude moves like a baby Giannis Antetokounmpo. His explosive dunks are just an average thing to him. He is so freaking explosive.
I like him, man. He's really good, and you can see why a lot of people are so high on him in this draft class, like why he could have one of the biggest ceilings of all the players. He literally dunks everything. I don't know if I've seen a college player that just dunks anything that's around the rim like him, but that's impressive. And he hurt himself by dunking so much. I'm almost like, dude, you got to chill out a little bit. Sometimes you got to put your pride to the side and just lay it up a little bit, because Hubert Davis probably got fired because Caleb Wilson was out for this tournament. I don't think Hubert Davis was great, first of all, but man, like that is tough for UNC to not have Wilson in that tournament game against VCU, and then they blew a 19-point lead. So yeah, I mean, like Davis probably would have got fired anyway. I'm not like trying to talk people out of that at this point, but not having Wilson was a massive, massive loss for them.
Yeah, I completely agree. Caleb Wilson, guys, in my opinion, when I put out the NBA draft power rankings, I have him over Boozer. I know people give me flack for that, but it's good to be different. Self-made man in California says, do you think they trade Bilal during draft? I don't want to say Bilal, Ben, but is there a possibility where one of these guys gets shipped in the wing room because there's so much depth
on draft night,
or just in general in the offseason?
I mean, maybe like there could be activity in the trade market for this team in the offseason. I don't know if it'd be someone from the wing room because of like the amount of players you have there. I guess it might depend what happens on draft night, but I could see this team making a move on draft night from some realm, trying to get back into the first round, because there's so much loaded talent in this draft class that I could see something like that happening. And at this point, like, there's not a lot of players I don't know if would be untouchable. I don't think Bilal would get traded. I think he's a guy that they really like, and I'm pretty sure he'll probably get an extension with this franchise. I think if you were ever going to trade Bilal, you would probably do it after he gets the extension, especially if you get him on a team-friendly deal. Then that would make that contract much more of an asset at this point, and that's what this front office likes to do. But no, I don't see Bilal getting traded.
Yeah, I think what Bilal offers you defensively, it's too good to pass up on. Ricky Maddie, what's going on, buddy? He says, Miami Heat coming up, ladies and gentlemen. Will Bam drop 90? Our defense is ridiculously horrendous. There's a possibility where Bam's like, hey, I did it already. Let me just try to one-up myself. When's that Nets game, Ben? Is it coming up?
The Nets game is on Sunday.
Okay. So that's probably the last game that I'm probably going to be so locked into. After that, the season's basically over.
You got the Heat on Saturday as well, so hopefully Bam always scores 82. Right?
Man, if he scores 82, that...
Isn't it crazy that he scored 83 and the Wizards have to play him again twice? How does it work out that way? The last home game of the season as well is against the Miami Heat, so hopefully Bam will chill out for that game. Hopefully, right?
You pray that he will, but it's amazing, man, how we used to live stream games, man. Remember those days?
Yeah.
Thank God we stopped doing it.
It's too much, man. It was too much. Like, I couldn't.
Imagine if we live streamed that Bam Adebayo game.
It would have been scenes. Nah, but like, it was too much. Like, I couldn't focus enough actually just watching the game. And at this point, like, you got to be locked in and like see everything that's happening in real time with this Wizards team, trying to track development. It was just something that wasn't sustainable with the live streams. But as of right now, like, I don't think people will be having too much fun if you're just live streaming during these games. But 6 games to go, guys. The Wizards are going to be the number 1 team in the tank standings when it's all said and done after tonight. Just an update right now. The Pacers are winning 129-106 with 6:30, so I think they got that one in the bag. We'll see, but the Washington Wizards, worst record in the NBA, worst they could fall in the draft is 5. That is a very good thing moving forward. We want to thank everyone for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every single day. For your second listen, be sure to check out the Locked On NBA Fantasy Basketball podcast hosted by Josh Lloyd, or check out our 24/7 live stream here on YouTube. For my co-host Abdul Ayyubi, I'm Ben Strober. We'll talk to you later.